Hi all, welcome again to my YouTube channel. I'm Gami, and today we're going to do a level 1 vinyasa flow. So it's going to be sort of bringing it down, moving slowly, and we're going to move in a way to create release and sort of ease for the low back. Mind, low back pain can be caused due to different aspects of the body. It can be because of the hips, it can be the legs. There's many things that are involved when we're talking about the low back, and each of your bodies are different. So some poses might feel a little better than others. Feel free to skip the ones that don't feel as nice. Today we're going to move and sort of open and release all the different parts of the body that can be causing and inflicting back pain. So again, make this your own practice. Skip the parts you don't want to. Take your time and the poses that feel nice. So make this your practice. And today we're going to use props. I know that many of you don't have this at home, so don't worry. We can do with stuff that we have at home. So I have a blanket, a bolster, and 2 blocks. We're not going to need all of this, but you can use any of these to replace the other. So if you don't have any of this, you can always use a blanket, a sturdy pillow, or just a bunch of towels. A bunch of towels works perfect, and I know many of us have that at home. So if you have that, we're going to prepare it by folding it long ways, just like this one. And so from here, we'll get started on our backs. Knees bent, letting the knees knock in so they're supported one by the other. Usually the feet a little wider than hip width. Arms next to the torso. Just taking a second to let yourself settle on your mat. So again, today we're going to move slowly, gently. Make this your practice. It is going to be a more stretchy flow rather than strengthening. And don't forget that strengthening your core is also very important for stabilizing the low back. So this is meant to sort of release a little bit of the pain, make you feel good. But there is also that aspect, which we won't do as much today. Taking deep breaths in. And blinking your eyes open if they were closed. Separating your knees so they're aligned with your feet. Opening your arms in a T. You're going to let the knees fall to one side and the other, moving at the rhythm of your breath. So on the exhale, letting the knees fall over towards the right. On the inhale, returning through center. Exhale, letting the knees fall over to the left. Inhale, returning through center, trying not to lift the shoulders. And just at your own pace, moving from side to side. So as I was saying before, the low back can have pain due to many different components. It has many different components, and yours might be caused by something specific, such as tight hamstrings, or it can be, there's many reasons. So these movements are going to cover many of the different reasons, but some might feel better than others. So be mindful. If it doesn't feel that nice, to skip it. We're going to work our hamstrings, our hips, spinal movement. And on the last one, return through center, letting the knees fall towards the right one. Last time as you look over towards the left. Again, trying to leave both shoulders on the mat. Closing your eyes. Maybe feeling that release already through the twist and the frontal hip opening. And coming back through center, letting the knees fall over towards the other side as you look over towards the right. So in today's class, you might want to make it a proposal to yourself to move gently, softly, as we're working with a very important and delicate part of the body. And slowly come back through center, bringing both knees into your chest. Try to keep the shoulders on the mat and hug the knees in and together. And maybe massaging from side to side. And separating your knees, opening them wide, getting that opening in the inside of the thighs as you pull the knees in. And again, you might want to sway from side to side if it feels nice as you massage the low back. And coming back through center, knees together, taking the right ankle over the left thigh as you open the knee out to the side and interlace your hands behind the left thigh as you hug the left leg in, opening, releasing that right hip. Make this your movement. Get playful, maybe swaying from side to side or almost circles as well as you open the hip. Gently letting go of the left leg, planting the left foot down as you lengthen the right leg up towards the ceiling. As we get started, you might feel a little tighter. So we're going to start with a dynamic opening. So we're going to bend the leg and lengthen it as much as we can, pushing through the heel. Bend and lengthen. We're going to do this a couple times, so just keep the dynamic movement as it feels right. This is just a safer, more gentle way to begin to open the back of the right leg. And maybe interlacing your hands behind the right thigh, pushing through the heel, and this time trying to hold it here, lengthening it as it feels comfortable to you. It might not be completely straight, that's fine. But just straightening it as much as you can, and it still feels nice, or not so straining on the muscle. And now you're going to let go of the foot, and you're going to take the foot over towards the left, opening that IT band, the outer right thigh, just slightly. It's a very small movement, taking the foot over the left hip, opening that outer right thigh. It's the IT band, which can create a lot of risk. It can create a lot of release on the sciatica. And come back through center. This time opening it to the right, maybe grabbing the big toe or wherever you can reach on the leg and opening it towards the right. Trying to keep both hip bones down so the left hip isn't lifting. And return back through center, planting the right foot, lifting both feet. You're going to take the left ankle over the right thigh this time, interlacing the hands behind the thigh, figure 4 on your backs as you open the left hip. So as you pull the right thigh in with my elbow, I'm pushing the knee out to get a little deeper opening. Again, we're trying to relax the shoulders and the head. If we're very tight, just try to take it out a little, sorry, rather than lift the shoulders and the head and tighten the upper back. And slowly releasing the right thigh, planting the right foot down, lengthening the left leg up. And again, that dynamic opening as we bend the knee and lengthen. Gently moving from one to the other, just to feel as you begin to open the leg in a more gentle way. And on the next one, interlacing your hands behind your thigh if they were not there, or wherever you can reach. And now you're going to hold it as you lengthen the leg, pushing through the heel. Hold it as straight as you can without feeling just a strain in the muscle. Starting gently as we begin today's class. And now releasing the hands from behind the thigh and taking the foot over towards the right just slightly. So now the foot is almost over the right hip bone. Feeling the IT band open and release. If you're a runner or if you have your IT band very tight, it can create strain in the low back. And coming back through center, opening the left leg out to the side and maybe grabbing the toe or wherever you can reach as you press the right hip down. And coming back through center, bringing both knees into the chest, hugging them in. And this time we're going to peel off the shoulders and the head off of the mat, taking the nose towards the knees, becoming like a small ball. If you want it to become as small as you can, rounding the back, lifting the tailbone, lifting the shoulders, opening that back body, and release down. Now rocking back and forth all the way, or if this is too much, you can just find your way into seated and into all fours, placing your hands under your shoulders, knees hip width apart. We're going to come through some rounds of cat-cows. So cat-cows, I love to start with cat-cows because it just brings mobility to the spine. And part of having a healthy body is increasing that range of motion, that mobility all throughout. So be mindful of not over crunching the low back. And we tend to say this a lot in our vinyasa, our very power classes, to be mindful of crunching the low back. But at the same time, it's always good to bring some mobility, mindful movement to all parts of the body. That's what keeps the body healthy. And last one, you're going to round your back, angry cat, and come back through neutral, placing your toes onto the mat, coming into your first downward facing dog. So bend your knees, maybe feet are a little wider than usual. Pressing the hands against the mat as you elongate through the spine. What happens to us today is that we tend to lose the natural curvature of the spine as we live in a world where we're sitting a lot. So we begin to round the low back. So what we're trying to find here is a neutral spine. So the sits bones are reaching up towards the sky. Rib cage is tying in slightly. And gently place the knees back down. We're going to come through one round of cat-cows and shift back up into down dog. So in a dynamic movement, inhale, open through the chest, looking up. Exhale, round the back, chin and tailbone in, coming back through neutral and downward facing dog for one round of breath. Inhale. And on the exhale, come back through tabletop, one round of cat-cow. We're going to do this one more time. And when you're finished with your round, place the toes onto the mat, shift the hips up, downward facing dog. Last round, placing the knees back onto the mat, one round of cat-cow. And we'll all meet in down dog. Inhale and release back down through tabletop, placing the backs of the feet on the mat. And this time we're going to do circles with the hips around the knees. Get curious with your body and the movement and see what feels nice, and maybe stay there a little longer. Or just move as your body guides you. And in the other direction now. So again, those circles, but going in the opposite direction. This releases the hip, side bends the spine, and we'll all meet in a tabletop position. Shifting the sits bones back towards the heels, coming into a child's pose. For this child's pose, keep the knees together, pressing the hands against the mat, reaching the sits bones towards the heels. Take a couple breaths here. Now lifting just slightly, tenting the fingertips. We're going to walk both hands over towards the right. Maybe reaching the left hand a little further to get that deep side stretch. Placing the forehead back down. And now making sure you're pressing the left sits bones down towards the left heel, so the left side isn't lifting. And hold here. Breathing deeply into that side body. And tenting the fingertips once again, lifting just slightly to walk the hands over towards the other side. Reaching that right hand maybe a little further to really get that side stretch. And place the forehead back down. Holding here for 3 more rounds of breath. And coming back through center, we're going to shift the torso forward, dropping the hips, coming belly down as we place our forearms onto the mat. We're going to come into Sphinx pose. Elbows tucked in towards our ribs, shoulders rolling back. And so if this is too deep, you can always walk your forearms a little further out, making it a little less deep on the back. If not, you can bring your elbows in, and we're going to hold here for a couple rounds of breath. Shoulders are rolling back, crown of the head is long. Low back is released, the glutes aren't tightened. so we're not crunching the low back. And gently release down, placing your hands next to your chest, pushing yourself back, child's pose. This time, separating the knees, big toes together, letting the torso melt between the thighs. And the sits bones again reach down towards the heels. Pressing through the hands, placing your toes back onto the mat, shifting the hips up, downward facing dog. This time, if you can, bringing your feet hip width apart, arms shoulder width apart, and reaching the sits bones up. From down dog, step the right foot between your hands. And you're going to step the left foot behind the right. So bend the knees as much as you need, as this can be very deep. Inhale, lengthen through the crown of the head, reaching the crown of the head forward. Exhaled, reaching the nose towards the legs, folding forward. And we're going to hold here for a couple seconds, feeling the IT band, the sides of the legs open. And inhale one more time, long spine forward. Exhale, forward fold, and reach your arms all the way up to standing, keeping the legs crossed. Reaching the left, grabbing the left wrist with the right hand, pulling the wrist over towards the right side, opening the left side of the body. Inhale, and release everything, unraveling the legs, keeping the arms next to the torso. Inhale, arms up. On the exhale, hinge forward, reaching for the mat with both hands, keeping the knees bent. Inhale, lengthen through the spine, reach the crown of the head forward. Exhale, step back into downward facing dog. Other side, step the left foot between your hands. Stepping the right foot behind and outside of the left foot, so both legs are crossed. Inhale, reach the crown of the head forward, lengthen through the crown of the head. Exhale, forward fold and hold here. As you reach the nose towards the legs, bending the knees as much as you need. And inhale, long, strong back. Exhale, forward fold, keeping the legs crossed, reach the arms all the way up to standing. This time getting a hold of the right wrist as you pull the wrist towards the left side, opening the whole right side of the body. And release everything down, unraveling the legs, separating the feet a little wider than hip width, opening the feet sort of like a diagonal. We're going to lower into Malasana Yogi Squat, lowering the hips, pressing the heel, trying to press the heels down. If they don't reach, you can use a towel that you have or roll up your mat to support the heels. If you don't have anything, just stay on your tiptoes. Bringing your hands in front of your heart, finding a long spine, deep breath in as you push the knees out to open the hips. And exhale, release everything. Transitioning into a yin malasana, relaxing the torso forward, letting the head hang heavy, arms reaching forward as the hips sink down, opening the whole back body. And gently walking the hands in, lifting the hips up, coming into a forward fold. Grabbing opposite elbows, ragdoll, letting the torso hang heavy, releasing everything through the crown of the head. Grabbing opposite elbows and maybe swaying from side to side. Releasing the hands. Inhale, long, strong back. Exhale, forward fold and come all the way up to standing. Hands in front of the heart. We're going to find our way into a seated position. Gently coming onto the mat, lengthening the legs forward. Dandasana. Shoulders over the hips, pushing through the heels, all toes facing up. Long spine. Fine. And now we're going to bend our knees to come into a forward fold. And the reason why we'll do it with bent knees is to get an opening in the back of the body. So if we lengthen our legs, we'll get it more in the hamstring. So we'll start with knees bent. We're still going to keep the heels pushing forward and all toes facing up as we melt the torso over our thighs, reaching for our heels, relaxing the head and neck. And holding here, breathing. Closing in, listening to the subtle sound of the breath. And now pushing through the heels. You might have to let go of the heels, and that's fine. We're going to try to lengthen the legs to make this a more of a hamstring opener. So if you let go of the legs, that's fine. You can walk your hands along the shins or wherever you reach. If you can still hold the heels and release here. So now we went from more of a back body opener or release to a hamstring opener. And come all the way up back into Dandasana. We're going to bend our knees, planting our feet onto the mat. Sort of as we started, so a little wider than hip width. If you have a pillow or a bunch of towels or a blanket, it might be nice to use it. If not, no worries, you don't need it. And you're going to let both knees fall over towards the right. So you're creating like two 90-degree angles with each leg. And in the same direction where the knees fell, you're going to twist back behind you, placing both hands behind you. You might just want to stay here, or you might want to lower onto your forearms, or just bend your arms, or maybe even come all the way down, belly down, whatever feels right, and we'll hold it here for a couple breaths. And gently, if you were on your forearms, pushing yourself up, coming back through center, planting both feet back onto the mat, and letting the knees drop towards the other side. Looking over behind you, planting both hands behind your torso, and either staying up on your hands or lower onto your forearms. And planting your hands back onto the mat, coming back through center, lengthening both legs out to the side, so coming into a wide angle seated pose. So making sure that the sits bones are grounded, we're going to reach the right hand towards the right leg. Maybe you can reach for the big toe with the two peace fingers. If that's too much, just wherever you can. As you reach the left arm overhead towards the right foot as well. It doesn't matter how low you go, it's more important to keep the chest and the torso looking up, so we're not closing it in. And from here, just remember to press the left sit bone down so it doesn't lift completely off the mat. And come back through center, other side, reaching the left hand towards the left toe or the leg, and reaching the right arm overhead, maybe looking up For some, it might feel a lot on the neck, so just, if that's the case, wherever it feels nice. And back through center. Closing your legs, bringing them to face towards the front of the mat. So now this is where we'll need our blankets or the towels or whatever we have, a bolster. We're going to grab the towels folded long ways like this, or the blanket, or the bolster, whatever we have, and we're going to line it with our shoulders. So the edge of the top of the blanket is going to go right where our shoulders start. And usually I only have one, but depending on how tight you are, you might want a little more so you get a deeper opening. And you will lower the shoulders onto the edge of the blanket, reaching the arms up and letting the whole frontal body open. Releasing, trying to surrender into this. Might not feel like a huge opener, but in our daily life, we tend to not move in this direction. We tend to close in and almost never open the body in the other direction as we are now. So stay with it. Sort of breaking up the patterns of our daily lives and releasing all the tightness that we might carry as we close in throughout the day. Now gently, you're going to come onto your side and come up into a seated position. We're going to do one more pose, well, two more poses with the towel or the blanket. So if you're with a tight bolster, with a sturdy bolster or pillow, you'll place it this way. So we're going to place it under our sacrum. You'll have to adjust it and play around to see where it feels nice, because if you go too up towards the spine, it might feel like it might pinch your spine. So you have to play with it to see where it feels right. If you have towels, you're going to roll up your towel so it becomes like a sturdy, small bundle, sort of. And you're going to place it right under your sacrum and lengthen the body along the mat, facing up. So you'll feel the opening in the front of both hips, arms next to the torso. Releasing the shoulders, the chest. Letting the opening happen on its own as we hold the pose for a bit longer. Keeping the towel where it is, or the whatever you have, whatever prop you're using, we're going to bring the right knee into the chest. Hugging the knee in, feeling a little deeper in the left front hip. Making sure all toes are facing up, so active legs are not splurging out. Pushing through the left heel, well, both heels. Opening that whole front hip, which usually means that we're sitting a lot, so we tend to tighten the psoas, a very important muscle that can also strain the low back. And gently release the right leg, bringing the left knee into the chest. The closer you bring the knee into the chest, the deeper you'll feel the opening in the right frontal hip. All toes are facing up and you're pushing through the heels. So it feels good, but it's active. It's slightly active. pose. Making sure we're not tensing the neck or the shoulders. And release the left leg. Gently sliding out whatever prop you have from under and putting it to a side. And you're going to bring both knees into the chest. You're going to cross the right leg, the right thigh, over the left thigh. We're going to do sort of like a supine Gomukhasana, cow-faced pose. So the thighs are crossing, and we're going to grab the sides of the legs, or wherever we reach, and pull the legs into the chest. So feeling it in the outer hips as we pull the knees in, the thighs into the torso. And opening your arms in a T, letting the legs as they are fall over towards the left as you look towards the right. Coming back through center. Unraveling the legs. Now this time taking the left thigh over the right, pulling the shins in so you bring the thighs closer to the torso. And it might just be enough to just cross them and keep them where they are. If that's the case, do so. If you're more open, you can bring them closer into the torso, making the stretch a little deeper. And opening your arms along, not along, in a T, letting the legs fall over towards the right as you look towards the left. And coming back through center, unraveling the legs. We're going to slowly transition into Shavasana. But to comfort your Shavasana, you can use a towel that you already have long ways, rolling it up and placing it under your knees. This is going to create release in the low back as the legs are slightly bent, so it's not straining the psoas or the low back. And releasing the arms next to the torso, palms of the hands facing up as you surrender any control and relax completely in Shavasana. I encourage you to stay here and get all the juice from the class in this last pose. But I will leave you here to enjoy your Shavasana. Thank you for joining. Namaste.